Okay, good morning, everyone. Those of you here in person and those who are watching via the live stream online. So we welcome you to our Coffee with Mr. G. And appreciate you coming out. Each month, most months, we try to have a meeting where you can hear some things about the school, maybe some inside scoops and stories, and maybe you hear it first here. Last month we talked about campus safety and security, and that was an important topic for us all. We continue to work through ways to enhance the safety of our kids on campus. Today's topic is accreditation. So we're going to get into that with Ms. Thompson in just a minute, but I will say hi to Ms. Thompson this morning.
Good morning, Mr. G.
Good morning. A couple quick announcements. First of all, this Thursday, the state of California will be typically participating in the Great California Shakeout. And this is where a lot of hospitals and other industries, they go through mock drills, and it's on 10/20, so this Thursday at 10/20. We're doing ours at 9 a.m. And just want you to know that we do have an earthquake plan, we have search and rescue tools, first aid, and we have response teams that are, and we'll go through a mock drill. So if your kids come home and say they were out in the back lot for a while, they were. And it's just one more way that we pay attention to the things that would keep our kids safe in the event of a disaster or a crisis or an emergency. So your kids might have stories about that. Also coming up at the end of the month on October 27th is Parent U. We, as a school, Foothill wants to be a resource to you as families, and Parent U, Parent University, is a night twice a year where we invite parents to come out and hear from an expert, a leading voice on some particular topic. Well, October is anti-bullying month, and so we've got Paul Coughlin from the Protectors coming to our school. Paul is probably the foremost leading expert, faith-based response to bullying and anti-bullying, as well as in public schools across the country. And so we were fortunate to get him, and so on the 27th that evening, and really encourage you, at least one parent from every household to attend. Now, back to school night was packed out. That was very important. Mom and dads, everybody was here. And I think this is of equal value. If Foothill is going to be a place where it's safe to be a kid, where it's okay to get the answer wrong, to be if there's any place where a child should be able to be themselves, not have to worry about being picked on or ridiculed, it should be a Christian school. But our kids are kids. And it seems like every generation has to learn kindness and respect. And in a Christian context, the Imago Dei, made in the image of God, you can't treat anybody with disdain or contempt. But we want you to be equipped. We also wanted to kind of join home and school in this partnership to create a culture of kindness on our campus. And then starting November 4th, right after that, the following week, we kick off our annual fund campaign. And that's a 2-week giving campaign. And there'll be a concert on November 4th, and then 2 weeks where parents will hear the different projects we're trying to fund. Of course, campus safety and security is taking a high priority in that. And so you'll see those projects, you'll have an opportunity to give, and we appreciate all your support in there. Tell parents we can't do everything on tuition alone, and if we're going to fund the margin of excellence, that takes extra than just tuition. And so I think when you look around, you see God honoring excellence everywhere, and it may seem like, well, they don't really need anything, but we do. And the way we've funded it over the years is by people saying, we need a new gym floor. Yeah, we need bleachers. Yeah, we need a stage curtain, or whatever the projects might be. People get behind it and say, I'll get it. And it's better to have a tax donation than to charge extra tuition. So appreciate your participation in that. So those are coming up. All right, again, welcome again to Coffee with Mr. G. The topic today is accreditation. And Ms. Thompson, just so you know, is leading our school and preschool through it, but she sits on the West Coast, Southern California Regional Commission on Accreditation. And so she's very well respected by Christian school educators in Southern California, and has a lead role in that. So we've got an expert here today, and an expert leading us through the whole process. So we're going to let her kind of guide us through the presentation, and we'll kind of tag team it as we go along. So she'll say some things, I'll interject. I hope I don't cut you off too much. But
I'm
together.
Used to it.
All right. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Ms. Thompson, lead us into the discussion about accreditation.
Great. Thanks, Mr. G. Does anybody know anything about accreditation? Good. You came to the right spot this morning. Okay. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit. Let's talk about the history of the school and accreditation through the history. So Foothill Christian School was first accredited in 1986. That was a long time ago. And we have undergone renewals in 92, 98, 04, 11, and 17. The preschool joined the process in 2011. We're accredited by two organizations. The first one is the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. They accredit a lot of the schools on the western coast of the United States.
Public and private.
Public and private. So colleges, high schools, clear down to elementary schools. And then the Association of Christian Schools International, which is an organization, or the Christian organization that we belong to, and they also provide accreditation for us. So it is a great way for us to kind of self-assess where we are as a school. Where are we effective? Where are we highly effective? Where do we need to improve? And some of the areas they cover are academic excellence, Bible knowledge and biblical worldview, character building, spiritual formation, schools, programs, activities. They cover everything from the 2-year-olds all the way up to 8th graders and beyond if we had that, but we don't have that. This is the cycle. First, we complete a self-study, and this is where we're at right now in the process. We began this process a year ago, so we've already been working on our accreditation for an entire year, and we evaluate every area of the school. We have a steering committee, and then we have subcommittees off of that steering committee, and they go out and they gather evidence, they gather data, and we're comparing ourselves to a set of standards provided by ACSI and WASC. And we have to evidence. So take the mission of the school. We have to have mission statements. We have to have core values. We have to have vision statements. We have to have handbooks. We have to have, you name it, and we have to have it, okay? So we gather all of that evidence so that we can show that we're evidencing that we are meeting these different standards. And then after we gather that and we analyze, we start writing some paragraphs about those different sections. And then we identify strengths in the school, or strengths in each of those different areas, and areas that we want to target for growth. Then, for us, this year in March, the end of March, a visiting team is going to come out. There's about 6 or 7 people on our team, and they will visit both this campus, Half Day, and Route 66. And they will visit every single classroom. They'll talk to every teacher. They'll talk to administration. They'll talk to various constituents.
Board members, elders.
Board members, elders. They meet with these different people, ask questions, get their participation, and then they write a report, and they submit that report to the commissions along with the recommendation of accreditation. And then the commissions vote on that or approve that, and then we come back and implement all those recommendations that they left, which are hopefully the same recommendations that we identified. We don't really want things that are different if we've done a good job. And then it repeats. So for 6 years, we work on those recommendations, then we start a new self-study, and the process continues.
So wash, rinse, and repeat, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me say something about this. It's probably the best tool to initiate school improvement than anything else. Because in the end, when we do the self-study, and we begin to say, what are we good at? And by the way, the way we determine that is it's been through parent surveys, staff surveys, students. There's a lot of ways we kind of say, how are we measuring up to those standards? And then, so we give ourselves the kudos for the things we think we're doing well. And then we also then surfaces some things where we need to target for growth, okay? And then usually the committee comes in, they look and they verify, yeah, this is a strength. We agree with that. So they'll give us a list of strengths, And some will be things we've identified. Some might be say, hey, you guys, this is really good. One year, I remember, by the way, I've been in most of those accreditation visits here at Foothill. But I remember one year, they gave us a major strength on our writing program at the middle school, actually throughout the school. We just kind of took that for granted. Yeah, we focused on it, but they said, no, this is really good what you're doing here. And so that was cool. So you get this report, and so some people think, oh, the accreditation team came, they left a report, whew, it's over. No, it's just really starting, because now you've got to implement those. They become mandates, so you have to do them. And so again, now you've got goals, and so it does keep us on track, on a school improvement track. Yeah.
I think safety was one of the things they left us the last time to continue to work on and communicate with you, our safety plans. So that's one thing. Another thing we were left with the last time is human resources. We didn't have a human resources department, and so through our own analysis, we said we wanted one. They confirmed that, and now we have a great human resources department that serves all of our employees very well. So those are things that help us grow. So one of the things that we did, if you were here last year, you hopefully participated in the Flourishing Schools Culture Survey. This went out to everybody. It went out to parents, it went out to alumni, it went out to board, faculty, staff, and students. And Mr. G is going to talk to you a little bit about that survey, because our whole accreditation process, we're actually piloting a brand new program for ACSI and WASC, and it's called Flourishing Schools. So it's called Inspire, and it's based on Flourishing Schools. So you want to talk to them about this model?
Yeah, this slide might be hard to see, and online, if they can put that up, it'd be helpful. But let me just tell you a little about the Flourishing School research that was done. It was sponsored by ACSI, and they looked at schools across the country, and there's some longitudinal aspects to it. But they basically said, what makes for a flourishing school? And they found that it's an ecosystem. There's a lot of parts and factors that contribute to a flourishing school. And then they said there were benchmarks, like if certain schools had effective student support programs, like we have an SST program, a student success team program. What difference did that make in a school? What about community involvement? Schools that were flourishing, they had an impact on their community, and Foothill does as well. We're very active in the community. So this research identified, and I'm going to maybe step out of the camera a little bit, 5 domains: your purpose, your mission, the philosophy statements, and what's core to who you are was important. Relationships, and this is from leaderships to parents to community, teacher, student. The learning orientation, is it a rigorous program? What kind of support is there for students? And then expertise and resources, and then well-being. Well-being coming out of COVID was something we focused on and have, like the last 2 years, trying to help our kids cope with anxiety and depression. And kids coming out of remote learning, now coming back to school, and we try to be there for them and our teachers, because our teachers went through a lot as well. It was very difficult to teach online, and we tried to support them. So caring for the stress levels, healthy living with staff, and those kinds of things. So in each of those domains, they said, wow, this is good information. So they created this inventory, Flourishing Schools Culture Inventory or survey. And basically what they said was, okay, these schools are considered flourishing in these areas. What's the benchmark? So in some cases, like instructional program, and again, it's based on the ratings of parents, students, teachers, or elder boards. So the whole community rates, and then there's these kind of like benchmarks to shoot for. So a school who goes through that same survey would say, wow, how did we do compared with what the research has shown as the benchmark? So so it was really cool, because we saw a lot of places we typically met or exceeded. Usually we just blew through a lot of them.
Right.
And maybe in a minute we'll go through a couple of them that we felt were challenged by us. So this Flourishing School accreditation model is rooted in research that says this is what effective schools do. And there are so standards, and then the benchmarks, we compare ourselves with others, not just by ourselves. So that's the Flourishing School culture inventory or model.
Okay, so some of the significant strengths. How many of you got to participate in that last year? Do you remember taking that survey? A couple of you remember taking the survey? You might have taken it and not remembered too. Okay, so some of the significant strengths that came out of that was community engagement, that we are very involved in our local community. Some examples of that are we have a great working relationship with APU. Some of their teaching students come over here and visit our classrooms. We have our 8th graders just went over there last week for a college visit, and that was a great experience for the kids. They got to go to a chapel, they got to visit some classes, they got to go see the what are those nice documents that they have over there?
Oh, the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Some Dead Sea Scrolls, and they got to eat in the cafeteria, the highlight probably of their trip.
Soft serve ice cream in the cafeteria.
So at Glendora Public Library, we have a great relationship with them. Mr. G has served on the foundation's board for a number of years. So there's a lot of community involvement. Our students are involved in service projects to the community. Professional development came back as a strength. We have a school-based professional development program that's recognized by ACSI. And so like last Friday when the kids weren't in school, we were in school. And what were we doing all day? Professional development. So we keep our teachers up to date on current trends in education and all sorts of different topics that we have to cover. Systems thinking, I thought, isn't that an interesting title? Systems thinking, what is that? That just means we consider the entire organization, even the church, the preschool, how's it going to affect different departments before we make a decision? Holistic teaching, this is probably my absolute favorite. Teachers touch the heart and soul as well as the mind. So teachers go beyond just teaching your kids. They really minister to them and love them. And then resource planning. Our board does an amazing job of not only supporting us with resources right now, but planning for the future. Living Way, boy, I'm sorry, that is like a blast from my past. 15 years ago, I was at another school. Foothill is going to be here for years and years to come, okay? Because of the planning of our school board.
Yeah, and that's our commitment to teachers and to programs, to you as families. I remember when we opened the orchestra down to 3rd grade, right? We said, well, you got to have violins. So we bought enough violins for everybody who wanted to join the orchestra in 3rd grade. So things like that, we feel that teachers, they shouldn't have to pay money out of their pocket to get supplies. So when you look around, we feel that we empower people to do their job, we resource them to do it well, and I think it bears out in our programs.
So opportunities for growth that came out of the Flourishing School survey is, I love this one, resource constraints. If we had more, we could do more. How many could appreciate that in your home life? If we had more, we can do more. So that's why we're always striving with the gala and different things to raise money to improve our excellence in our
those
programs.
seem like they're kind of polarized. They're like, wait a minute, on one hand, it came out as a strength that we're well-resourced, and I think we would look around and say, yeah, we are. But on the other hand, people said, but imagine what we could do.
Yeah.
And so that's we agree.
Yeah. Stress came back as an area of concern on the survey, but again, this is right post-COVID. We even questioned whether or not that was the right timing to send out the survey because of COVID and everything we were going through. So it doesn't surprise us that showed up. Yeah,
because we were all going through it. And we felt, it's better to get a snapshot in time, whether you were in COVID or not, at least to say, here's where we are now, and then what would we do with that data.
Right. Our students felt, when we surveyed students, that's our older kids, so 6th through 8th graders, felt that they were ill-equipped to deal with some difficult situations. Again, I feel a lot of this was coming out of COVID. But we are doing some things this year to help our students. And one of the professional development things that we're doing is we're having training on helping kids through anxiety and depression and these different feelings that they're experiencing. So we're spending some time on that this year with our teachers.
Do you have another slide on that? Okay, there you go.
Questioning, students having doubts about their faith. came up with our junior hires, and we're also addressing that one. So anything that we're seeing, we're like, okay, we have to step up what we're doing here.
Yeah, and I want to say something about that. So that came back in the survey, and so we said, well, what was the benchmark? What was the level for the people who took the survey pre-COVID and in the Flourishing Schools? And interesting enough, in most of the categories, you had to hit like 85% to get the benchmark, and we were there or beyond. And so we said, well, gosh, what did we rate there? We rated like 66% in the area of helping students grapple with their faith. And we thought, wow, that was one of our lowest marks. Oh, let's look over here at the Flourishing School inventory. What was the benchmark? 67%. Maybe it was the reverse. It might have been 66 and we had 67. But I said, wait, time out. Wait a minute. Okay, we hear this and we want to help our kids own their faith and grapple with it, and we recognize that if we keep teaching Bible the way we always used to teach Bible, today when kids look to culture, it used to be they would look to culture and would reinforce the values. Now they look to culture and social media and influences, and it doesn't line up always with what the Bible teaches. So if we teach it the same way, they're going to pass the test. They're going to get A's on the test, but they're going to fail at life. When they leave our school, they're going to say, maybe buy into the culture. So we have to help them navigate youth culture. But when the benchmark came back at 67, I mean, those are the most effective. The most effective schools are only doing a 66% job at this. And we realized, wow, we're probably not alone in this. The kids need help. There's a lot of things trying to influence them and their thoughts, and so we're looking at ways to engage them. We're not looking to pick a fight on anything, but we want to step into those areas. Otherwise, they're left to themselves to figure it out, and so we want to come alongside. So that's part of what we said. Okay, we got to do a better job of that.
I think another aspect of that is we've always had kids that have served the community and even globally. And during COVID, all of that went away. So these kids have not had an opportunity to step out and experience their faith in a new way. I'm happy to say we're reinstituting some of those things this year. Junior hires are going to be going down to Mexico later this year. So some of those things are going to come back. But they weren't able to even do service projects locally because we couldn't be together. So there was a 2 or 3 year span there where our kids were just not able to serve, and I think that was a huge factor in their faith. And then the last one was outcomes focus, that we need to focus more on outcomes rather than on the processes or the activities to get there. So preschool did a survey. I don't know if do any of you have parents or kids over at the preschool? Okay, well they did a survey also, so I'll run through this. And that's still open if you're online and you're a preschool parent and you want to complete that survey. That survey's still open and you can still respond to it. But the positives that came back there was their loving, nurturing faculty. Did any of you have kids that went through the preschool? Awesome. So you can testify to some of this, especially that loving, nurturing faculty. Great parent communication. They just bought a whole new program within the last year, Bright Wheel, and that's really improved the communication.
Did anybody have a chance to experience Bright Wheel? Right.
Yeah, thumbs up,
it's really good. And in fact, people ask us, Mr. G, you need Bright Wheel. So I know, right? Because it is a great tool. So you're just kind of affirming what they said. The challenge with that is it's really designed for preschools, and they don't have the things we need for K-8 programs. So, yeah.
And then just a well-resourced program. They have great resources over there. Don't know if you've ever been to their basement, but it is amazing. Okay.
They have in the basement, it's like a lake shore teach educational supply store. Down there, they have racks and racks of materials and resources and books by every theme, every season, every category you could even imagine. And they check it out like a library. And even the last time the accreditation team came, they were like, oh my gosh, look at all of this. So they're very well resourced.
And then
some would say amply
resourced, yes.
It was an accreditation joke because we went back and forth on the wording on that.
Some areas to target for growth in the preschool, safety and security. Now, we just mentioned Bright Wheel as being a strength, but Mr. G, you want to kind of establishing those expectations across the board with.
Oh yeah, I'll come in, but let me say about safety and security. Okay. One of the challenges, like even we're going to get keypad entries at the gate, all the gates and entries. Okay, so that's in fact I have a meeting today to look at what the cost is going to be on that. But over there they have a keypad entry, but everybody's nice and they hold the door open and say, "Come on in," right? Now, in the mornings, in fact, Miss Vicky, the preschool director, is going to send something out. In the mornings, you got a parent with a child in tow, and they're holding their hand. You figure, okay, they belong, and they're probably safe. So we get it, and there's staff right there, and they're going to put more staff at the front to make sure. But in the evening, people come to get their child, and unless they have siblings or something, they're by themselves. So people hold the door open for somebody, and they don't know. If you know the person, fine. But if you don't, and we would say, hey, do you mind using your own code? Or saying, if you not comfortable with that, because it's awkward, you feel like you're not a nice, polite person. Or you say, you go first. Let them use their code, and then you use yours. So my only point that there's a little bit of a challenge there, and there's things they're going to be implementing there as well. But I just want to mention that even with keypads, it takes all of us to be really conscientious about that. And then the next one is the school-wide expectations with Bright Wheel Communications. It was a minor thing, but we put it on here because some teachers, wow, they load up Bright Wheel with pictures and comments, and then some do, I think, fine, but there's a kind of sometimes a disparity from teachers. So what's the expectation? What do we say? Here's what every teacher must do. And so I think they're going to kind of standardize that so no one feels that they're not getting enough communication. But it kind of breeds a level of expectation, over every little sniffle or every little thing a parent's expecting some sort of a comment. And so we got to strike a balance there. But I think we would agree the strength is the communication, but how do we make it effective? Everyone's using it kind of similarly.
Great. And then they also want to start creating resources for families, especially for students. When kids are young, you want to diagnose things as early as you can. You want to get help as early as you can. So they want to create a system for supporting families and students with learning struggles. And some of that might be outsourcing or getting resources for outside of the school, because the school can't do everything. But they want to start collecting that information and be able to help their parents in a better way.
They've done it on a case-by-case basis as things kind of unfold. But you think about it, a couple things. At Foothill, we assess all the students before they come into the school. Preschool, really not, here they come. They don't usually do an assessment. And so students show up, and sometimes there might be social emotional needs, behavior concerns, different things. And so while they work with families on that, they feel they can do a better job of assessing that sooner, putting an action plan in place sooner, and partnering with the parents with resources so that they, and at that level, that's often sometimes the first time parents have heard there's a concern. And maybe it's their first child, and they haven't quite had something to measure against the developmental stages or benchmarks. And so sometimes it takes a lot to come alongside parents and talk about some of the needs. So they want to do that better. I think that's a good goal.
So again, going back to the self-study that we're working on, these are the areas that are being targeted by us, and that will be focused on by the visiting team when they come in March. Teaching and learning, spiritual formation, mission, vision, extracurricular opportunities, homeschool community, facilities, resources, and special services. So we're analyzing and investigating all of that, gathering data in all of these different areas. So some themes have started to creep to the top, either through conversations or through the surveys, or even in coffees with Mr. G. So some of the emerging themes on the positive side, again, are the dedicated faculty, and now I'm talking preschool all the way through 8th grade. Solid, rigorous academic program, strong spiritual formation, quality extracurricular programs. I'll tell you, we have more extracurricular activities for our kids than I've seen in a lot of Christian schools. They get to whatever their interests are, there's a program here for them.
But we are interested in getting a cheer program. So if that's interest to you and you know anybody who might be a coach, we want to kick that off in the spring because that's when you do, you kind of order uniforms. So we got to get a coach. And we got some other projects like that.
Yeah,
but I just threw it out there because
any of you moms
the girls,
want to coach cheer?
Yeah.
No interest, huh?
Okay, yeah. But some of the girls
we'll
actually put
find
together
somebody.
a video for me. Mr. G, we need a cheer. Okay, we'll do it. Maybe baton. Anyway.
You have experience with cheer?
I don't want to do it, but I'll find someone for you.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Another strong thing is our professional development and then good homeschool communication. And then the emerging themes on the things that we're looking to improve are enhance our security. And that's coming more of a desire internally to improve our security. There's nothing wrong. You wouldn't walk on our campus and say, man, it's wide open and they just let anybody walk in. That's not the case, but we want to make it better for the safety of our students and our faculty. And we want to strengthen opportunities for students to engage with culture through a biblical worldview. So this goes back to them, again, wrestling with their Christian faith. So we want to improve in some of those areas. So I have a question for
Audience
you.
participation time.
The ideal graduate. So some of you have had your children here since preschool. And some of you, not so much. Okay, maybe kindergarten, first grade, maybe this is your first year. But when your child graduates from Foothill Christian School, what are the things that you want them to have or to know or to be able to do? Does that make sense?
So the profile of an
What is the
ideal graduate?
profile of a Foothill Christian School graduate? And I'm going to put this slide up because this is what you're going to see when you log on. Oh, let me go back.
Do they have to get that?
Yeah, let me
QR
go
code?
back to the QR
So
code.
get your phones out. Snap that picture. You're welcome to come up and get
I'll
a
make it.
closer
I'll
view
make it.
of
Oops. I'll make it larger so you can
And
see
she'll
it.
give you instructions on what to do with it here.
Okay. So grab the QR code, and if you're at home, it's in the chat. Okay. And you can come forward if you can't grab it from the back there. And then this is called a Padlet, okay? And you're going to notice the plus sign at the bottom, and you just hit the plus sign, and it's going to bring up a little screen that you can type on. You can change the color. You can turn it into like a little colored Post-it note.
Did we get it?
You can
Good.
put more than one thing on there. It's all anonymous. I don't know who's saying what. Does everybody have it now?
Okay,
Because I'll
they've
go to
got
the
it.
other page.
So now what you start typing in qualities of a Foothill graduate that you think are important, they'll start showing up here. The ideal graduate should look like.
So you just hit the plus sign, and if you want to make it colored, there's those options there for you. If you're not a techie person, it'll just come up as a white background. No big deal.
And that's okay.
Is it working? Okay, I'm going to refresh it here just in case it's kind of lost its live feed there. Alina, are you giving it a shot?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to open for our people online.
Would it,
I
online,
tested it this morning. Yeah.
Online people would
Yeah.
register
Oh, yeah.
also, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
good.
just can't read a QR code.
yeah. Did anybody post anything? Because it should be showing up here if you posted it.
By the way, our teachers use this type of app to get student answers on topics. And
Oh, there we
so they just
go.
use their iPads. Here we go. I want my daughter to have life skills to be a good Christian. It's good.
Yeah, help
Ready
each
for high
other out.
school.
If you're not techie, just ask a friend. Ready for high school. Strong understanding of the Bible and relationship with Christ. Our teachers did this exact activity during orientation this year. Ideal graduate at FCS would be prepared academically beyond their grade level. We had a family that left a Foothill this year and moved out toward Rialto area or Ontario and put their kids in public school and reported back to us that their kids are at least a half a year ahead of their classmates academically in what they're doing. And even the school was even using some of the same curriculum that we use, and they were ahead. So their kids were having to repeat things that they learned last year. Appropriate social skills and strong moral compass.
Ready for high school. Yeah, we have conversations with the high schools on math and writing and different things, and we kind of hear what they think is important, and we make curriculum adjustments according to that. We like to say from here you can go anywhere, but that relationship with St. Lucy's, that relationship with Damien and Western helps us make sure that our programs are aligned. So students matriculate through the grade levels and transition to high school, they're ready for it. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the biblical context that you guys are kind of mentioning here, because when you look at our crest, the crown of life, in the end, while we want to be decidedly academic and distinctively Christian, both are important, very important. And I don't think you put one above the other in the sense that if you're at a Christian school, you shouldn't suffer academically. In fact, you should be ahead. And but in the end, the wreath is the victor's crown. And in the end, we want our kids to be found in Christ on that day. So ultimately, the whole thing is encompassed by that overarching goal that they will know Christ. Ready for public speaking. I like that one, because I think the kids have a lot of opportunities to stand up in front of their class and programs where they develop a poise in front of an audience. And speaking in front of others is like, for some people, like, really high on the stress level, or I don't know, related to some very awful things.
Yeah.
But our kids tend to do pretty well with that. And so, but some of that's not taught, but it's caught. Not everything's taught, it's caught, because we just emphasize the things that allow that to develop. I like your answers. What did we say is the ideal
Okay,
graduate?
so, and by the way, we appreciate this feedback. This contributes to the whole accreditation process also. But so what are our outcomes? What do we say are the most important things for students to know when they're leaving Foothill? Well, our outcomes are that they're academically successful. So you're going to recognize some of these same things that you said. We just are wording them a little bit different.
And these are in the handbook, and under each of these categories, there's like 3 subpoints. What does it mean to be academically well, ready for high school? Those kind of, so there's 3 subpoints, but these are just the main ones. We want them to be academically successful.
We want them to love God and each other, for that matter, okay? We want them to be effective communicators, so that's the standing up in front of people. We want them to have a greater appreciation for arts and cultural diversity. We want them to be effective users of technology, and we want them, somebody said critical thinking in here through a biblical worldview, so we want them to be skilled thinkers and problem solvers. So we're thinking along the same lines as you as parents are. And these have been established for quite a while here at Foothill, but these are what we want our students to be when they graduate from Foothill. In the preschool, they have identified, they want their littles, so these are our littlest ones, to acquire and refine healthy motor skills and to grow physically. They're at that developmental age that's very important to develop those motor skills, small and large. They want them to develop social and emotionally as they interact with others. Very important as they come over here. We're finding that COVID, that's probably one of the saddest effects of COVID among our students, is just the social and emotional well-being of our students. Preschool wants to cultivate a love for learning as they gain academic knowledge, and to know that God loves them and has a plan for their life. So similar to us, except at a preschool level. So that's kind of the end of our presentation, but do you have questions that we can answer about this whole accreditation process? And again, our visit is in March. I believe it's March 26th, if I'm not mistaken, where the visiting team will come. That's a Sunday. They start on a Sunday afternoon, meeting with the school board and doing a tour of the campuses and things like that. So.
Yeah, Sunday afternoon through Wednesday. Yeah, 26th.
Questions? No questions.
Yeah.
When do you find out your results?
We're left with a report pretty much immediately. It might be a rough draft, but they'll leave us that report immediately. And then the commission meets in May, and we'll be notified by the end of May, early June,
It
of
used
our-
to be this big secret,
Yeah.
like, but the ballot, and you know this better than anybody, you're on the commission, but basically the terms of accreditation there's a 6-year term that they don't use this wording so much anymore, but clear, meaning they just come back in 6 years. And we provide an annual report, and then in the midterm, you have to provide a larger report, more in-depth on any of the majors. And then they come back again. You go through this again. Sometimes they said, you get the 6-year term, but we're going to send a couple people back at midterm to see how you're doing and kind of hold you a little more accountable to the majors. But we've had the clear for several years, and so it doesn't mean you don't get to do it. They're just saying you don't need somebody to hold your hand to go through it.
Foothill's very established, so we don't anticipate any problems. Newer schools that are going through the process the first time, they're usually the ones that are getting those midterm
And now
visits.
the committees are being a little more transparent and say, hey, here's what we're recommending.
Yeah.
And then the commission could change it, but usually they go with the committee.
And then do you communicate that right away to the parents, or is it you guys kind of?
We wait till the commission actually conveys that on to us, because otherwise we're getting what if there was an issue? But you could ask us, hey, it went well, whatever. We can report that back. But the official status isn't really official until their end of May or early June meeting.
We're not anticipating any problems.
No.
And in fact, a lot of schools, like Mr. G, myself, Mrs. Bernal, Mrs. Wilson, a lot of us serve on accreditation teams that go to other schools. And a lot of administrators are wanting to come to Foothill. So they're not having any problem getting people to get on our team. So they want to come and see what it's all about, especially this new Inspire.
Yeah. And while you're thinking of other questions, is there anything online questions at all out there?
Is the accreditation report shared with parents?
Report.
Like the
Report.
finding- I think they mean like
Yeah.
whatever the accreditation team recommends. Is that shared?
Probably
Yeah.
the big ticket items.
Actually,
there's
what
a lot of detail in there.
there is so what we're thinking about doing is
You have to kind of restate it because she won't be able to hear.
okay. So the question is, will parents get a copy of that report or access to it? And what we plan to do is kind of take it out of the report format and repackage it into categories and then make that available to our parents. And part of that becomes a part of I'll say a short-term and maybe long-term strategic planning. And so you'll see those things there. The report that what we envision would be more like a vision piece, and it'd be less about what strengths we got, but it's more like saying, hey, here's where we're going in the next 3 to 5 years. So it would come out that way.
It's definitely not a secret. If you want to sit there and read the whole report, come sit in my office and I'll give you a copy of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay? But it's a good 30 or 40 pages or more. Our report, I think, is up to 80 or 90 pages right now that we're submitting to them. So it's a long report. So we're just pulling the highlights out. We'll pull
And
the highlights out for you.
the new process, that we're helping
Protocols,
pilot, is supposed to be less work, but I don't know.
I don't feel that.
Either. Well, because they say, oh, yeah, you got to tell your story. You want
Yeah.
them to get a feel for it. And I will say, when it comes to these areas, the professional development program that Ms. Thompson has put together, schools call us and say, hey, can we get a copy of that? How did you do it? How did you get ACSI to approve that? We were the first in all of Southern California to have the ACSI approved professional development plan. And it gave us a lot of, it saved our teachers from having to go through jump through other hoops for CEUs and professional development. Say, hey, we'll handle that ourselves. You're making them do things that don't necessarily align, not bad, but we're putting a lot of energy in some common site-based goals. And so that was cool. So people, hey, how'd you do that? And so Foothill is kind of a go-to out there for people, yeah. But in fact, a school reached out to me yesterday and said, hey, Mr. G, you have your curriculum and your curriculum maps and units and biblical integration. We're a school that uses a particular software platform. And they said, can you share that with us? Because we'd like to use some of your stuff. And we're glad to share it. They're welcome to use it. And so that's really good, I think, resource sharing with other schools, collaboration like that. But yeah, It's not uncommon to be somewhere, hey, what's Foothill up to this year? So I feel good about that.
Yeah,
you
me
know?
too.
So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Any other questions then? Okay, all right. Well, thank you for coming.
Do we know what the
It's super
topic is going to
important.
be next time, or we haven't gotten that far?
No, anybody want a topic? You want to suggest a topic? Any topics out there? Shoot me an email if you think there's something, that might be important to cover.
Yeah, we take a little survey of the kids in class, maybe have them, what would they want addressed, maybe that we can see where their minds are coming from.
Yeah, we do that a lot with the middle schoolers, and they're very respectful when they do the surveys. We say, if you're going to joke around about it, we're just throwing it out, But if you want to really speak to administration and to the school, then they do. They're very conscientious about it, so we look at that. There's been things we've implemented because of that. But I will say the topic that I would say, not necessarily a topic for credit for a coffee, it could be, I think, is. But I really encourage you, come see Paul Coughlin and the Protectors on that anti-bullying night. He'll be with our kids in the morning. He's even coming an extra day. He's going to be with the 4th and 5th graders one day, like in their chapel. And then he'll meet with the teachers. He'll meet with the chapel for the middle schoolers, and then
Junior Beta.
the junior beta, our leadership, and again trying to shift our culture. And he was here several years ago, and it made a difference in our school. Kids confess to others their how they would be mean to them, one brother to brother. And there were tears. And then we start looking at, things like the Imago Dei was birthed out of that. Our anti-bullying exhibit, One School's Response, was birthed out of this. We said we got to do things differently and creatively to make a difference. So we might do that as a topic because I think that would be good for parents to hear. And so about here's how we approach it and here's what you can do at home. And so that really gets kick-started at that Parent U. So encourage your friends to come to that as well.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right.
You guys
Okay,
have a good
God
day.
bless.
Thanks for
Enjoy.
your
We're here
time
if
this
you need
morning.
anything.